For many of us, the start of the school year is just around the corner. And the way school typically works is pretty straightforward, right? You do enough of the work, you get to pass the class. Some of us who are overachievers look at the syllabus the first opportunity we get and determine exactly what's required to get an A and stick to it. There are others who have a different approach, right? They roll with the motto, C's get degrees, and they barely graduate by the skin of their teeth. And so we grow up in this merit-based system all of our lives, often believing that our value is based on our performance, whether it's at school or work or even church. In fact, I've recently struggled with a parable that Jesus taught in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. Now, a parable is basically an earthly story with a heavenly lesson. And Jesus essentially shares this parable about a boss who goes away on a long journey, but before he does, he entrusts some money to 3 of his servants. So one servant gets 5 bags of silver, the other gets 3 bags, and then the third gets 1. And the first 2 immediately put the money to work and double what they were originally given. So that's easy math. The one with 5 makes it 10, the one with 3 makes it 6. Whereas the third servant buried his bag in the ground. And so upon the master's return after this long trip, he comes only to commend the 2 who put in work and gave them an identical greeting. He said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I'll give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." As for the third servant, he piled up excuse after excuse why he didn't do anything. He tried to justify why this so-called servant didn't serve. And he received this indictment as a result. "You wicked and lazy servant, not good and faithful, but wicked and lazy." And so my question is, do all believers then automatically get the well done, good and faithful servant? Or is this something we earn like a grade in school? Think about that for a second as we look at how Jesus ends this parable. He says about the third servant, "Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So from what I read, it looks like it's either an A plus or an F minus, nothing in between. The parable alludes to the fact that all genuine believers will be putting their God-given resources to further his kingdom, and unbelievers will continue to make every excuse not to. You know what's worth noting about this parable is that it actually comes off of 2 previous parables with a similar idea. That as followers of Christ, we should be faithfully watching, faithfully waiting, and in this case, faithfully working for our Master's return. So as a true Christian, as you serve God and others, when it's all said and done, you will receive a well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord. And you might be wondering, but how will I know if I've done enough to deserve such a humbling welcome? Well, the truth is, there's no amount of service that can earn this reception. It's all about God's amazing grace. Your entrance and my entrance into heaven isn't based on how much you've done for Jesus, but how much he's done for you. Let that inspire you to serve him all the more.